Number 4, determine two pairs of polar coordinates for the point with 0 degrees less than or equal to theta, which is less than 360. So here are two. We have 3, -3. Now this time, at this point, there's no degree symbol. This is not radians. This is an x and y here. This is rectangular form. So that's an x and a y. That means when we find polar, we want to change it to r and theta. And so the other formulas we've come across is what's x and y's relationship to r is that these are like a Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. That's how we can get our r. And theta, if you have an x and y, according to psi y cos x, tangent is y over x. Tangent theta equals y over x, which means that tangent, or rather theta, will be the inverse tangent of y over x. So let's use this to solve. First, we're going to use the points x and y. So I'm going to say 3 squared, that's my x, plus -3 squared, my y, is going to equal r squared. 3 squared is 9, and -3 times -3 is also 9, which means we have 18 for r squared. So r will equal the square root of 18. Now, as it turns out, that's the same thing as the square root of 3, square root of 9 times square root of 2. We know what the square root of 9 is. It's 3. So we have 3 square roots of 2. So that's our radius. Now to find the angle, what we'll do is inverse tangent. So inverse tangent of y over x. So that's what theta will equal. So theta will equal inverse tangent of our y is -3, and our x is 3, which means that we'll be typing in the calculator tan inverse of -1. So we'll go over here to the calculator, and we clear this out of the way. We'll go trig inverse tangent of -1. When I press enter, it says -45. I check. My angle is in degrees, so I'm good. It's -45 degrees. That's my theta. Now, one thing you have to be careful with the calculator is it'll only give you answers for inverse tangent in the first or fourth quadrant. It will not place them anywhere else. So let's draw this real quick and make sure we're correct. What the calculator is saying is that this value, -45, is down in the fourth quadrant, because that would be going down 45 degrees. It would be saying that that point is located there. Now let's check and see if it should be. This is saying go 3 right and 3 down. So it would, in fact, be correct. That's 3 right, and this is 3 down. So everything looks good here. So we have these 2 points. So as I'm looking, I look for 3 square roots of 2. It's got to be positive 3 square roots of 2 and -45, and I don't see those anywhere. And that's because each polar can be listed in one of 4 ways. So we now know that we have square root of 3 square roots of 2. Sorry about that. Let's try this again. 3 square roots of 2, comma, -45 degrees. That's one. Now to find the other 4, what we do is either add or subtract 180 degrees. Now every time you add or subtract 180, the radius is going to change. So from positive to negative or vice versa. So this will become -3 square roots of 2, comma, when I add 180 to -45, I get 135 degrees. Now I look for this one. I see it here. So this answer is looking pretty good. I'm just going to mark it. And over here, I do not see it. And so I'm going to continue on, because now we need to see, what about this one? Does this one work? And so we again add 180 degrees. And when I do that, my radius is going to change to positive. So I'd have 3 square roots of 2. When I add, I am getting 315 degrees. I look back. That appears to be the answer here. So my correct answer is B. Now let's try number 5. Give me the points, -4, 0. So again, I go through the same process. I'm first going to do Pythagorean theorem. So I'll have -4, and we'll square it. We'll add that to 0 squared, and that will be our r squared. This is 16 plus 0, which means we get 16 here. So r is the square root of 16, which means that r equals 4. And now I'll do tan inverse to find theta. So tan inverse of, it's y over x, would be 0 over -4, which means what is the tangent of 0? or inverse tangent of 0 rather. So I'll do this back in the calculator. I'm going to change this to a 0. It is 0. So theta equals 0 here. So now I know my points. I should have 4 and 0, and this is in degrees. So I look for 4, 0. This is what I'm looking for. 4, 0. I see it there, so I'll kind of mark this answer. This one's out because it's not negative 4, and that's the only one there. Now, how do I get my other point? I either add or subtract 180. Now, this one has a positive 180, so let's try it. If I add 180 to this, the radius would then go negative, and so I'd have negative 4, comma 180, which that is the other point. So here my answer would be C. And now let's try the last one. This one's a little bit trickier because of that square, because of the square root involved. So we'll have 2 square roots of 3 squared plus 6 squared will equal r squared. Now here, when we square this, it's 2 square roots of 3 times 2 square roots of 3, which means I'll have 4 times 3, because the square root of 3 times square root of 3 is just square root of 9 or 3. So that's 4 times 3, which equals 12. Over here, we have 36, so it's 12 plus 36, which equals 48. So r is the square root of 48, which is the same thing as square root of 16 times square root of 3, which means r equals 4 square roots of 3. So all those have 4 square roots of 3. Now I'll do inverse tangent to find the angle. Inverse tangent of it's y over x. So 6 over 2 square roots of 3, which that, when we type it in the calculator, we could go as the 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's 3 over the square root of 3, which if you wanted to simplify that, you multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. And this would give you 3 in the bottom, so those would cancel out. And so really this is just the tangent inverse of the square root of 3. But you can type this into the calculator or this if you so desired. So I'll come over here and I'll say tangent inverse of square root of 3. And I press enter, I get 60 degrees. So my value would be 4 square roots of 3, comma 60 degrees. I look to see if I had that answer. I see it here. This one's out because that's negative. And these are 30. I can't even get to 30. So we have, in fact, found the answer. It is C. Now, could we have done that in the calculator? Yes. Just like the first 3 problems, what we could have done is done control bracket and then typed in 3, comma, negative 3. You type in your values, 3, comma, negative 3, and then you choose convert to polar. So if you go menu, vectors, down to vectors again, convert to polar. This will change it to polar, which means I'd have these values. And so what you'd be looking for is, since these all say 3 square roots of 2, you could try that to test to make sure this is 3 square roots of 2. And we see those are the same. So now you know your angle is negative 45, and you go through the same process. And on we do the same thing on this one. So we could go up, and I'm just going to this time grab this problem and change it to negative 4 and 0. Negative 4 and 0. And we would get 4, comma 180. And, oh, this was negative 4. I didn't type that in correct. Oh, I did. So it says 4, comma 180. And I'm glad I'm doing this because I realize I've got the wrong answer here. How do we make a mistake? Oh, I know why. I didn't check my tangent value. So this is why we use the calculator. What am I talking about? Well, earlier, it's the same thing I was talking about here. The calculator only gives us the answers in the first 2 quadrants. So it said 0 degrees, which means the point would be over here. But if you look at this, this is saying go left 4. It's over here. So I needed, in fact, add 180 to my answer. So C is actually incorrect here. My first point would be positive 4, 180. This one's out. And then to find the other, so now we now know this one wrong. It looks like this would be the correct answer. We could check it by, if we subtracted 180, the radius would flip, and we have negative 4 and 0 degrees. So it's actually B is the correct answer here. And so it's good knowing multiple ways how to do this so we can check our answers. And then we'll go down here. This should be in the first quadrant, so we should get the correct answer this time. 2 square roots of 3 and 6. So we'll do this again. 2 square roots of 3 and 6. 2 square roots of 3 and 6. It says this weird value in 60 degrees, and we're saying that was 4 square roots of 3. Let's check it. 4 square roots of 3. They match, so we did this one correctly. And so now we're moving on.